Hello Year 1, we are starting a new chapter in our maths and it's about volume and capacity. And volume and capacity has got things to do with containers and how much they can hold. Volume means the amount of space inside a container and capacity is how much water or liquid can go into a container. Let's have a look at our in focus today. So we are looking at here three different, and we call these beakers. Okay, there's the word, beakers. Three beakers, and they're all the same. Now, a beaker could be something like a plastic cup, a pot, but we call them a beaker. So that's a word we need to know about when we're talking about volume and capacity. So we've got here three beakers. We call this one A, this one B, and this one C. And the question says, how can we compare and describe the amount of water inside the beakers? Now, it might be a little bit difficult to see, but if you have, I think it's easier to see in this one. In beaker C, can you see the water is up to there? In beaker B, there's no water. And in beaker A, the water goes right up to the top. So how could we compare these three beakers and how could we describe them about what's inside? Let's have a look. So first of all, in beaker A, the water goes right to the top. And it tells us here that beaker A cannot hold any more water. Beaker A is full. So there's a word to describe beaker A. Beaker A is full. It says here that beaker B has no water. Beaker B is empty. So we could say that beaker B is empty. So if we're comparing beaker A and B, we could say beaker A is full, beaker B is empty. Or we could say there's more water in beaker A than beaker B, or we could say there's less water, in fact there's no water in beaker B than beaker A. And then in beaker C, it says, well, let me read this down here because it says the amount of water in beaker A is more than in beaker C. Beaker C is not full. What would you say about beaker C? What do you think? Thinking of what we were doing in our fractions. How could we describe? That's right, we could say beaker C is half full. The water goes up to half of it. But we could say the amount of water in beaker A is more than the amount of water in beaker C because that one's full, but that's not full. Or we could say the amount of water in beaker C is less than the amount of water in beaker A. So we're using our more than and less than again to describe. Now, here's a little activity for you to do perhaps at home. It says start with an empty, and it says one of these. It's like a beaker, so an empty cup or an empty pot. And then it's got a little long thing here, which is something that you could fill. And then there's a tray. I've just used, you could use little egg cup instead. And then each player takes turns to fill the pot, the cup, the beaker, with either 1 or 2 egg cups. The first to fill the beaker so that the water overflows loses the game. The player who went before this wins. So you take turns, you can choose to put an egg cup of water in or 2. But if you are the person that puts the last bit of water in where it overflows, you lose. So see if you can have a go with that. Let's have a look at our guided practice. And it's asking us to compare 2 containers using more than or less than. Now, the black lines on there are just to show you where the water goes up to in each beaker. we've got beaker P and beaker Q. And if you look very carefully, the water goes up to the top here in beaker P, but in Q it just goes to here. So it says the amount of water in beaker P is more than or less than the amount in beaker Q. What do you think it is? The water's higher here and lower there, so which is it? That's right, it is more than. So if we say the amount of water in beaker P is more than the amount in beaker Q. Well done. What about this sentence? The amount of water in beaker Q is something the amount in beaker Q. Is it more than or less than? Look at Q, look at P. That's right, it's less than. So it should say the amount of water in beaker Q, this one, is less than the amount in beaker P. Well done. Let's have a look at these three beakers at the bottom, beaker R, S and T. It says the amount of water in beaker S, this one, is something, it's more than or less than, the amount in beaker R. So is there more in S than R or less? That's right, it's more. So the amount of water in beaker S is more than the amount in beaker R. Well done. And the amount in beaker S, is it more than or less than beaker T? Have a look. There's S is halfway and then T is right to the top. It is less than. Well done. And is less than the amount in beaker T. Have a go at worksheet 1, page 127.